Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
When is the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah to be recited over the food? Prior to saying the bracha of the food or afterwards? As we know, the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah is reserved to be said only when eating over a kibetza, 57 grams of mezainis or hamaitzi, within shir kadei achilas pras, which is between 4 to 9 minutes. And the question is asked when we are sitting in our sukkah to eat the mezainis or hamaitzi, when should the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah be said? Before we say the blessing of the food, after we say the blessing of the food, after we start eating the food, when? So on the one hand we can say that Leisheiv Basukkah should be said as soon as you enter the sukkah, as the mitzvah begins as soon as you go in. And it doesn't make sense to say the bracha after saying the bracha of the food, as then it's considered a hefsek, an interval between the blessing of the food and eating the food. On the other hand, one can argue and say that since we only say the blessing Leisheiv Basukkah upon eating, maybe it's only said once you begin the eating, and therefore it should be said after the bracha. Practically, we find two different approaches amongst the poskim. The Tashbates of Ashkenaz brings in the name of Rami Rottenberg, like the former approach, that the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah is to be said prior to the blessing over the food, as one becomes obligated in the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah as soon as he sits down to eat, even before he begins eating. And therefore it's proper to precede it to the blessing of Hamaitzi or Mazainis, which is not obligatory until one actually decides to taste the food. The Agas Rabbeinu Peretz, however, and so rules the Rush, state that no, the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah should only be said after you say the bracha of the food. So first say Hamaitzi or Mazainis, then you say Leisheiv Basukkah, and only then do you eat the food. And the reason is because we're accustomed not to say Leisheiv Basukkah in a sukkah unless you're eating. Therefore we want you already to begin the eating by saying the bracha prior to saying the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah. Now, why isn't the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah considered an interval between the blessing of the food and the eating of the food? The answer is because this blessing is also part of the meal. And it's similar to in Kiddush that we say first Hagafen and then we say the bracha of Kiddush Hayom, Mekadesh HaShabbos. And it's not considered an interval. Practically, these two approaches are recorded in the Shulchan Aruch in chapter 643. Halacha 3 in the Mechaber, Halacha 4 in the Alter Rebbe. And the way it is ruled is as follows, that from the letter of the law, it would be proper to say Leisheiv Basukkah prior to the blessing of the food. However, practically, the custom of the world is to say the blessing Leisheiv Basukkah after you've already said the blessing of Hamaitzi or Mazayis of the food, and only then do you eat the food. And this custom that's written in the Shulchan Aruch is the custom of Ashkenazim today, including Chabad Chassidim, that we are accustomed to first say the Mazayis or Hamaitzi, and only then do we say Leisheiv Basukkah, and only then do we start eating. However, the widespread Sephardi custom is like the original letter of the law, to first say Leisheiv Basukkah and only then begin saying the bracha of the food and then begin eating. As so is the apparent main opinion of the Mechaber, as he writes in his Beis Yosef, commentary on the Torah, and so rules Rav Chaim Falaji in the Ben Ish Chai, the Kaf Chaim, Yokut Yosef, and others, that so is the practical Sephardi custom. However, nonetheless, everyone agrees that if whether you said the bracha afterwards or whether you said the bracha before, you're yet saying there's never a need to repeat it, and all this discussion is only what should initially be done. So to summarize, there's two approaches in halacha of when to say the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah when you're eating Hamaitzi or Mazainis. Some say to say it before you say the blessing over the food. Others say to say it between the blessing of the food and the eating of the food. Sephardim follow the former approach, while Ashkenazim follow the latter approach, and first say Mazainis Hamaitzi, then Leisheiv Basukkah, and then eat the food. All this is during the weekday meals. However, during Shabbos and Yantiv of Sukkot, the custom is to say the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah during the Kiddush itself. And many poskim rule that this applies even by the day Kiddush, that you say the blessing of Leisheiv Basukkah by the Kiddush itself, and so is the Chabad custom. This matter will be elaborated on in Mirz Hashem in a further halacha.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many Sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.